It's time now for French Connections, our weekly look at the intricacies of life here in France. Now this week we're going to focus on the yearly farming fair, which is one of the most popular cultural events in Paris.
It sure is, Sanam. The Salon de l'Agriculture, also called France's biggest farm. It's been around since 1964, and it is a huge deal here in France. Definitely an institution. Now, over a 9-day period, 4,000 farm animals make their way to the capital. We're talking about France's finest cows, pigs, roosters, sheep, dogs, horses, you name it. They're on display. You can see them here. And there are all sorts of competitions and prizes at the Salon. The biggest one is the general competition for animals, essentially the animal version of the Miss France competition.
That's been a massive hit here in France, though I haven't been yet. And it seems like some 600,000 people flock to the fair to try and admire the diversity of French agriculture.
Indeed, and you really get the impression that it's two worlds meeting, this collision between city and country. For farmers, it's actually an opportunity for them to talk about their working conditions, to talk about the struggles they face. But it's also a big opportunity for little Parisians to essentially get an idea about what life is like on a farm, to get up close and personal with the animals here, because the Salon de l'Agriculture is essentially a massive petting zoo. As you can see it happening here, it's very popular for little kids and bigger kids too.
What a beauty.
I came to see sheep, bulls, cows.
It's so soft.
It's incredible to see these animals. It transforms you. You don't think about anything, like taxes.
We're Parisians, so we hardly see any animals during the year. So we love to come here and encourage the farmers.
It's great that city people like farmers. It'd be great if they'd spread the word to politicians to defend us, so we can keep doing our jobs properly. It's really tough these days.
But of course, Flo, on top of the farm animals, you have what we call political animals. What's that about?
Indeed, this is an annual ritual for politicians. They don't want to miss the opportunity to be seen cozying up to farmers, being close to the real people. And of course, chief amongst them, the president, Emmanuel Macron. He's really eager to break away from a certain reputation he has of being a city boy who doesn't really know that much about farming. Now, he's got a really hard row to hoe during the Salon right before the presidential election. He got hit in the head by an egg. You can see it happening there. Boom, right in the head. Now, that was before he was elected president. For his first visit as president, you can see it happening here, he was actually given a gift, a chicken, so it's kind of telling that this happened after getting hit in the head with an egg. He got a chicken. The chicken's name is Agathe, but he also faced some booing. So things are looking up for him, but he still has a long way to go.
I wonder whether he took that hen away with him or not.
Apparently he did.
And of course, a charm offensive doesn't always go down so well.
And that brings us to our word du jour, amour vache, or words du jour, I guess I could say. This literally means cow love, but it's an expression in France for a love affair where both partners are verbally and physically aggressive with each other. I guess you could translate it as brutal love. And nobody knows this better than the former president, Nicolas Sarkozy. Now, he was seen as being kind of the bling-bling president, and he was never really in his element at the Salon de l'Agriculture. He never really wanted to spend very much time there, and he had some unfortunate interactions there. For instance, in 2008, this was during his first visit as president to the Salon, and what happened went down as one of the most memorable moments from his presidency.
Of course, Sarkozy didn't really have much luck, if you want to look at it that way, because his predecessor, Jacques Chirac, was very popular amongst French farmers.
French farmers pretty much worshipped the ground that Jacques Chirac walked on, and that's for several reasons. First of all, he was the agricultural minister in the 70s, but especially he reformed the EU's common agricultural policy, and all this means that he was a superstar. People loved him. You can see him here working the crowd at the Salon. He would spend hours there, unlike Nicolas Sarkozy, soaking up the love and tasting everything, because on top of being an agricultural fair, it's also a major food fair. The Salon de l'Agriculture is essentially a tour de France for your taste buds. It's really delicious. I recommend it.
Now, Despite this very public display of affection that we're seeing at the fair, of course, the French farming sector is facing a crisis at the moment.
There's a major malaise in French agriculture. Conditions are really tough. Farmers are facing falling prices, increased regulations, tough competition due to globalization. And the number of French farmers has really plummeted since the 1960s. Despite help from the state, growing numbers of farmers are actually struggling to survive, and quite literally. There was a really shocking statistic that came out a couple of years ago, and that was the suicide rate for French farmers, 20% higher than the general French population. Essentially, a French farmer commits suicide every 2 days.
One day I got a phone call from the bank saying, "We're going to sell your farm." I put a rope around my neck. I didn't have the will to live.
We're just surviving.
We're surviving here.
Après, au niveau travail,
It's getting harder and harder. There's too much uncertainty.
it's a pity to be in this situation. France is so beautiful, but we're losing it.
But Flo, there is a paradox here because, of course, French farmers hold a very dear place in the hearts of the French people here. There's even a reality TV show about matchmaking farmers.
Indeed, that is L'amour est dans le pré, a very popular TV show. And there is this romantic myth around French farmers, this nostalgia for a time when, our ancestors worked the land, when people were close to nature. And in so many ways, that's why the Salon de l'Agriculture is so popular. People try to reconnect with their roots, to reconnect with that myth that it is really, though, a stark contrast with the harsh reality of French farming today.
Flo, thank you very much for that. I'm afraid that's all we have time for. If you have any questions about France that you'd like us to explore in French Connections, you can tweet Flo at Flo Villemignon and check out our website.